Dr. Xiva Lyrian tapped her long, elegant fingers against the glass screen of her medical tablet. Her blue skin shimmered under the clinic's bright white lights, her silver eyes scanning the file with a growing sense of disbelief. Another human patient. These creatures were becoming more common in the Galactic Council's medical centers, yet their biology still baffled her. They were fragile, clumsy, and frankly, primitive compared to the advanced races of the galaxy. She sighed and looked up as the clinic doors slid open with a soft hiss. Two figures stepped in. The first was a towering Xorvian warrior, his dark exoskeleton gleaming under the lights. He carried a man over one shoulder, as if the human weighed nothing. The man's short, dark hair was slick with sweat, and his tan skin was bruised along his jaw. He wore a torn military uniform, his muscular build tense even in injury. The Xorvian dumped him onto the examination table with an amused grunt. "This one does not know when to stop fighting," the warrior rumbled in his deep voice. The human, Commander Dane Voss, groaned and pushed himself up onto his elbows. "I was winning," he muttered, flashing a cocky grin. Xiva arched a delicate brow ridge. "Winning?" She swiped across her screen, pulling up his medical records. "Commander Voss, you challenged a Xorvian to a sparring match. Your bones are not reinforced like his. Your muscle fibers are nowhere near as dense, and yet you still fought him." Dane shrugged. "Seemed like a good idea at the time." Xiva's lips curled in a smirk. Humans. They were reckless, stubborn, and completely ridiculous. She had treated them before. Soldiers, engineers, explorers, all of them running into danger without a second thought. Their species should have gone extinct ages ago, yet here they were, joining the stars like they belonged. She activated the scanner above the table, watching as a holographic display of Dane's body flickered into view. Her eyes skimmed over the readings: broken ribs, torn muscle fibers, internal bruising. Severe, but not fatal. Nothing new. She folded her arms. "You shouldn't even be awake right now." Dane laughed. "Trust me, Doc, I've had worse." Xiva rolled her eyes and tapped a few commands on her tablet. The automated healing unit hummed to life, sending a cool pulse of light across his body to accelerate the natural repair process. "Humans are illogical. You enter battles you cannot win. Your bodies lack proper regenerative abilities. Your pain threshold is—" She paused, narrowing her eyes at the screen. Something wasn't right. His vitals were too stable. His cells were repairing damage faster than expected. Human biology wasn't designed for this level of resilience, not without external enhancements. And yet, his body was adapting. His oxygen levels had already adjusted to the low-atmosphere environment of the clinic, something that should take hours, not minutes. She frowned. "Strange." Dane smirked. "What's strange?" "That I survived." Xiva didn't answer right away. Instead, she adjusted the scanner settings, running a deeper analysis. The results made her stop breathing for a moment. His muscle fibers, previously torn, were already showing signs of repair. His neurological activity suggested an adaptation response, as if his body had learned from the trauma and was making itself stronger. That wasn't normal. She slowly turned her silver eyes toward him. "Commander Voss, what exactly are you?" Dane tilted his head, his grin widening. "Just a guy who doesn't know when to quit." Xiva wasn't so sure. She had mocked human biology before. But now, staring at the impossible results on her screen, she felt something unfamiliar coil in her chest. Unease. For the first time in her career, she realized something deeply unsettling. The galaxy had severely underestimated humanity. Dr. Xiva Lyrian sat at her sleek, silver desk, her fingers tapping rhythmically against the surface. The glowing medical screen in front of her still displayed Commander Dane Voss's test results. She had reviewed them 3 times, yet the numbers hadn't changed. His body was healing at an unnatural rate. His biological adaptability was beyond anything she had seen in a non-engineered species. She leaned back, her smooth blue skin catching the soft clinic lights as she exhaled slowly. Humans weren't supposed to be special. They were weak compared to the armored Thorvians, slow next to the Velari, and lacked the regenerative abilities of her own Zelthari race. And yet, Dane sat on the medical table across from her, very much alive, despite injuries that should have left him unconscious for days. "Doc, you've been staring at that screen for a while," Dane said, smirking. His dark brown eyes glowed with amusement as he rolled his shoulder, testing his arm. "Are you waiting for me to drop dead?" Siva flicked her silver gaze toward him. "No, Commander. I am simply recalculating." Dane chuckled. "That's scientist talk for, I don't understand what's happening, isn't it?" She ignored his smug tone and pulled up an anatomical comparison chart. A glowing hologram of a human body appeared beside those of a Zelthari, a Xorvian, and a Velari. "Let's break this down, Commander," she began, gesturing at the display. "The Xorvians have reinforced exoskeletons, which allow them to withstand extreme physical impact. The Velari have hyper-accelerated reflexes that let them move 3 times faster than you. And my species, the Zelthari, have complete control over our cellular regeneration. If we are injured, we can force our bodies to heal in minutes." Dane whistled, impressed. "Sounds useful. Wish I had that trick." Siva tapped the human hologram. Yet, despite lacking any of these superior traits, humans continue to survive. "Why?" Dane smirked. "Because we don't know how to quit." Siva narrowed her eyes. "That is not an acceptable scientific answer." She pulled up another data set, zooming in on the human muscular system. "Your muscles are weaker than Xorvians, yet you recover from damage faster than expected. Your reflexes are slower than a Velari's, yet you somehow react under pressure in ways that defy prediction. Your cells do not regenerate like mine, yet your body compensates by developing scar tissue so rapidly that it functions like armor over time. Asterisk asterisk." She folded her arms. "This is not normal. It is chaotic." Dane chuckled. "So what you're saying is, we're freaks of nature?" Siva tilted her head. "You are illogical. By all standards of evolution, you should not be thriving. You should be struggling to survive." Dane stretched his arms with a grin. "And yet, here I am." Siva narrowed her eyes. "Indeed, here you are, and I intend to find out why." She initiated another scan, this time focusing on his nervous system and cellular response to stress. The results came in, and for the second time that day, Siva felt a chill run down her spine. His neural pathways were shifting, adapting as they spoke. His muscle fibers had already begun repairing at an accelerated rate. It was as if his body was learning from the injury, making itself stronger in preparation for the next fight. That wasn't normal. Siva turned to Dane, studying him as if he were an anomaly instead of a man. "Humans don't just heal, you evolve." Dane raised an eyebrow. "You say that like it's a bad thing." Siva hesitated. "Was it?" Dr. Xiva Lyrian sat rigid in her chair, her silver eyes locked onto the medical screen in front of her. The human test results glowed in the dim clinic room, numbers shifting, updating, each new data point making her pulse quicken. This was impossible. Across the room, Commander Dane Voss sat on the examination table, his arms crossed over his chest. His uniform jacket lay discarded beside him, revealing his muscular frame covered in faint scars, reminders of past battles. He had stopped fidgeting, watching Xiva with a mix of amusement and curiosity. "You look like you just saw a ghost," Dane said, breaking the silence. "Bad news, Doc." Xiva didn't respond immediately. She was too busy running another scan, certain that the first one had malfunctioned. Humans weren't supposed to be like this. Her fingers tapped swiftly on the console, inputting new parameters. The results didn't change. Xiva's smooth blue skin darkened slightly in frustration. Zelthari scientists had studied humans before. Why had no one noticed this? She inhaled sharply, then turned to Dane, her voice carefully controlled. "Commander, are you aware that your body is currently undergoing rapid biological adaptation?" Dane raised an eyebrow. "You mean healing?" "Yeah, that happens." Siva shook her head. "No, not just healing. Your body is evolving." She pointed at the holographic display. "Look here. Your muscle fibers are actively restructuring themselves. Your nervous system is rerouting damaged connections at an accelerated rate. Even your blood composition is shifting, adapting to the low oxygen levels of this facility far faster than any species I've encountered." Dane whistled low. "Huh. Neat." Siva's jaw tightened. "Neat." She tapped the screen again, pulling up a comparison graph. "Commander, do you realize what this means? Every species in the galaxy has fixed biological traits. My people, the Zelthari, can regenerate wounds, but our bodies will never become stronger from injury. The Corvians have reinforced skeletons, but their muscle structure remains unchanged their entire lives. The Velari have enhanced reflexes, but they do not improve beyond what they are born with." She turned back to him, her voice dropping slightly. "But you? Your body is rewriting itself in real time. If placed under enough stress, there is no limit to what you could become." Dane leaned back on his hands, clearly unfazed. "So what you're saying is, humans are built different." Siva exhaled sharply. "You are not taking this seriously." Dane shrugged. "Look, Doc, your acting like this is some grand revelation. But we already know we adapt fast. We've been doing it since we crawled out of the mud. You throw a human into a new environment, we figure it out. Extreme heat, we sweat more. Freezing cold, we grow tougher. Poison, give us enough time, and we'll build a resistance." Siva studied him carefully. Did humanity truly not understand the significance of this? Did they not realize what this meant for the future? She turned back to her screen and accessed classified medical files from the Galactic Council's database. Her access was limited, but she found something that made her breath catch. There had been secret studies on human prisoners. Some were exposed to extreme radiation. Some were placed in near-vacuum conditions. Others were infected with lethal alien diseases, and some had survived. Siva swallowed. No other species could do this. No other species could change in response to death itself. She slowly turned back to Dane. "Commander, do you understand what you are?" Dane tilted his head, smirking. "Just a guy who doesn't like losing." Siva wasn't sure whether to feel impressed or afraid. Because now, she finally understood, humans weren't weak. They were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Dr. Xiva Lyrian sat in silence, her silver eyes still fixed on the glowing screen before her. Humans were dangerous. Not because of their strength, not because of their technology, but because of their ability to change. She exhaled slowly, composing herself. She had spent years in the Galactic Council's finest medical institutions. She had studied countless species, mapped their genetic codes, and never, had she seen a species like this. Across the room, Commander Dane Voss stretched his arms, wincing slightly as his body adjusted to his rapid healing. His tanned skin, once bruised from his sparring match with the Xorvian warrior, was already regaining its normal color. That shouldn't be possible. Dane caught her staring and raised an eyebrow. "You good, Doc?" Siva hesitated, then straightened her posture. "Commander, I need you to understand something. Your biology does not follow normal evolutionary patterns. This is beyond simple adaptation. Your kind is unpredictable." Dane smirked. "We get that a lot." Siva tapped the medical screen, her voice sharpening. "Do you? Tell me, have humans ever documented cases of spontaneous genetic shifts? Unexplained resistances, sudden physical enhancements?" Dane leaned back slightly, considering her words. "I mean, yeah, soldiers building up insane pain tolerance, divers staying underwater longer than they should, entire populations developing new immune defenses after a few generations. Nothing new. Nothing new. Siva's fingers tightened around the edge of the console. Did humans not understand what they were? She ran another scan, this time focusing on his neurological patterns. The results made her breath catch. His brain activity had changed since the last scan. New connections had formed. His nervous system had adjusted its pain receptors. His reflex response time had shortened. It was as if his body had learned from its injuries. She turned back to him. If placed in extreme enough conditions, Commander, your kind could develop traits beyond anything we have seen. Increased endurance, augmented senses, even biological defenses against entirely new threats. There may be no limit to what you can become. Dane rolled his shoulders. Neat. Siva's frustration flared. Commander, this is not neat. This is a violation of known biological principles. Dane laughed. Well, Doc, if it makes you feel any better, most of us don't think about this stuff. We just keep going. That was exactly what disturbed her. The other species in the galaxy had their limits. Their evolutionary paths were set, their strengths and weaknesses defined. But humans? They had no fixed limits, only challenges to overcome. Siva stared at the medical screen, her mind racing. If the Council knew about this, ***, truly understood what humans were capable of. ***, what would they do? Her people, the Zelthari, had strict medical ethics. The Velari respected logic above all else. But the Xorvians, the Tarshik, the Abarak Dominion, they would not see humans as an ally. They would see them as a threat. Siva's fingers hovered over the console. She could submit this data to the Galactic Medical Archive. She could let the Council see what she had seen. But for the first time in her career, she hesitated. If the wrong people discovered the truth, would humanity be studied, or would it be exterminated before it could become something more? Across the room, Dane grinned, completely unaware of the storm raging in her mind. So, Doc, am I free to go? Siva looked at him, at the impossible life form sitting before her. And for the first time, she felt something unexpected. Fear. Dr. Xiva Lyrian stood frozen before her medical console, the glowing test results casting a pale light on her blue skin. This information was dangerous. If the Galactic Council learned the truth about humans, they wouldn't see an ally. They would see a problem to control. And problems to control often disappeared. Across the room, Commander Dane Voss hopped down from the examination table, rolling his shoulder with ease. Just an hour ago, he had been covered in deep bruises from his sparring match with the Psorium warrior. Now, there was barely a mark on him. Well, Doc, am I cleared for duty? Dane asked, flashing her a cocky grin. Siva hesitated. She should report this. It was her duty as a Zelthari scientist to submit medical discoveries to the Council's archives. Yet, some instinct, a deep, nagging feeling, told her that if she did, it would not end well for humans. Instead, she gave him a slow nod. You are stable, though I advise caution. Your body is still undergoing changes. Dane laughed. Yeah, that's kind of what we do. Adapt, improvise, survive. Siva studied him carefully. Humans didn't see their own evolution as unusual. To them, it was just how life worked. They didn't realize how the rest of the galaxy operated, how stagnant, how predictable most species were. She forced her voice to remain neutral. Commander, are humans aware of how different you are? Dane shrugged. Most of us don't think about it. We just keep pushing forward. What's the alternative? Giving up. Siva inhaled slowly. Giving up. That was what other species did. The Xorvians were born strong, but their strength never increased. The Velari were born fast, but their speed never grew sharper. Even her own kind, the Zelthari, were locked into their genetic abilities. They could heal wounds, but they could never become more than what they were. But humans refused to stay the same. Siva turned back to the medical console. Her fingers hovered over the transmit report button. The information was ready to send. One press, and the data would be uploaded to the Galactic Medical Archive. Her hands curled into fists. No, the ROM people would see this. The Council claimed to act in the interest of all species, but Shiva wasn't naive. She had seen what happened to species deemed unpredictable. The Tarshic homeworld had been bombed into compliance. The Corellian genetic experiments had been quietly erased from history. And now, humans. Siva's heart pounded. Would the Council see them as a species to uplift, or one to contain? She turned back to Dane. Did he even realize the danger his kind was in? Dane frowned at her hesitation. Doc, something wrong. Siva's silver eyes met his. You need to be careful. Dane snorted. I'm always careful. Siva shook her head. No, Commander. I mean with the Council. If they learn what I have learned today, they will not ignore it. For the first time, Dane's expression grew serious. You think they'll see us as a threat? Siva's throat tightened. I think they will act before they understand. Dane studied her for a moment, then gave a small smirk. Then I guess we better stay ahead of them, huh? Siva didn't smile back. Humans always thought they could outthink, outfight, outlast any challenge. But this was bigger than a battlefield. And for the first time in her life, Shiva Lyrian was about to break protocol. Dr. Shiva Lyrian shut down the medical console, her silver eyes flicking to the transmit report button one last time before she turned away. She had made her choice. She would not send the report. Instead, she erased the test results. The Galactic Council could never know what she had just discovered. Across the room, Commander Dane Voss was watching her closely. His usual smirk had faded, replaced by something sharper, more calculating. He might not have understood the full danger, but he wasn't stupid. He knew something was wrong. Doc, he said slowly, what exactly are you hiding? Siva hesitated. Telling him the full truth was risky, but at this point, there was no turning back. She inhaled deeply. Your species is unlike any other in the galaxy. You do not just adapt. You evolve, Commander, faster than any species should. Dane's brows furrowed. Yeah, you mentioned that before. But why does it matter so much? Siva's voice was calm, but inside, she felt a quiet panic. Because the Council does not like variables. They do not like unpredictability. She met his gaze. If they believe your kind cannot be controlled, they will act. And history tells me they do not act with mercy. Dane was silent for a long moment. His blue-gray eyes darkened with understanding. You think they'll try to wipe us out? Siva's jaw tightened. I think they will not take chances. Dane let out a slow breath. He leaned against the examination table, arms crossed, expression unreadable. And you? Siva tilted her head. What about me? Dane's gaze was piercing. You had the chance to report this. You didn't. Why? She hesitated. The easy answer was that it was against her principles as a doctor. But that wasn't the full truth. The truth was, she was afraid. Not of humans, of what the Council would do to them. Finally, she spoke. Because I have seen what happens to species the Council fears, and I refuse to be part of it. Dane studied her for another long moment. Then, to her surprise, he grinned. Well, Doc, looks like you just picked a side. Siva exhaled. It appears so. But deep down, she knew this was only the beginning. Because secrets never stayed buried for long. And if the Council found out what she had done, she had just made herself a target. Dr. Shiva Lyrian moved quickly through the corridors of the Zalthari medical complex, her usually graceful steps tense with urgency. The dim blue lights overhead flickered as she passed, and her heart pounded in rhythm with her footsteps. She had erased the test results. She had made sure there was no record of Commander Dane Voss's impossible biology. But somehow, the Council still knew. She had received the message an hour ago. A Council investigator had arrived at the station, demanding access to all medical data concerning the human species. That could only mean one thing. Someone had discovered something, and if they found out, she had deleted the results. Siva clenched her fists. She had dedicated her life to medicine, to knowledge, to truth. But now, the truth itself was dangerous. She turned a corner and nearly crashed into Dane. The human caught her arm before she stumbled, his reflexes frighteningly fast. His blue-gray eyes scanned her face, reading her expression in an instant. "What's wrong?" Siva inhaled sharply. "The Council sent an investigator. They are looking into human medical data." Dane's expression didn't change, but his grip on her arm tightened. "Are we compromised?" Siva shook her head. "Not yet, but we will be if they dig too deep." Dane exhaled through his nose, releasing her. He straightened his posture, shifting into the calm confidence of a battle-tested soldier. "Then we need a plan." Siva stared at him. How could he be so composed? Did he not realize what was at stake? If the investigator uncovered the truth, humanity could be labeled a threat to galactic stability, a threat that needed to be contained. She swallowed. "Commander, if they suspect anything, they could order a containment protocol. That means restrictions, surveillance, and possibly worse." Dane's jaw tightened. "I get it." Siva hesitated, then asked the question that had been burning in her mind. "What will humanity do if the Council decides to act against you?" Dane's gaze was steady. "We'll do what we always do." He turned and started walking down the hall, his voice calm but firm. "Adapt, survive, and if necessary, fight." Siva watched him go, her stomach twisting with unease. Because something told her that if it came to that, the rest of the galaxy would not be ready. Dr. Xiva Lyrian sat in her dimly lit office, staring at the datapad in her hands. The words on the screen confirmed her worst fears. The Council was preparing to act. The message was coded, but she could read between the lines. Containment measures under review. Potential genetic anomalies warrant further action. Siva clenched her fists. This was how it started. First, quiet investigations. Then, restrictions. And if humanity refused to be controlled, eradication. A soft knock at her door pulled her from her thoughts. The door slid open, and Commander Dane Voss stepped inside. His expression was unreadable, but his posture was rigid, too controlled. He already knew. "They're coming, aren't they?" Dane asked. Siva nodded slowly. "They fear what they do not understand." Dane exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Figures." There was no panic in his voice, no desperation, just acceptance. Siva felt a tightness in her chest. "You don't seem surprised." Dane gave a small, humorless smirk. "Doc, we're used to this." Siva blinked. Used to what? Dane's voice was quiet but firm. Being underestimated. Being feared. Every time humanity steps into the unknown, someone bigger, stronger, and more advanced tries to keep us in our place. He leaned forward. "It never works." A chill ran down Siva's spine. They were not afraid. Any other species would have been terrified at the idea of the Council turning against them. But not humans. Siva swallowed. "What will you do?" Dane's blue-gray eyes locked onto hers. "The same thing we always do." He turned toward the door. "We'll show them why that was a mistake." As he walked out, Siva realized something with absolute certainty. The Council had no idea what it had just awakened.